The breath of God is breathing me. Wow. Ricky Byers. I mean, you can't go wrong with Ricky Byers' songs. She's been in our movement for so long. But think about that. The breath of God, breathing me, letting me know all is well. I don't know about you, but I need to hear that a lot lately. So, welcome again. In January, we are looking at the basics of the science of mind philosophy. In week 1, I talked about the thing itself. And I mentioned how I see it as our base camp. So we come back to that base camp in order to travel and to go places, but we can always come back to our center. And last week, Jerry Walker shared, how big are you dreaming? How big is your God in the way it works? And today, I'm going to focus a little bit on what it does. What does it do? So I have a question for you first. If you didn't understand gravity, would you still fall down? Of course you would. Gravity doesn't care. If you've studied physics, it doesn't care what faith tradition you are. It doesn't care where you grew up or where you live. It works the same for everybody all the time. And why that matters for us? Because we here at the Foothill Center hold the idea that spiritual principles work in a similar way. That's the way the law works. That's what it does. So what we hold in consciousness matters. Haven't you heard that from me before? So I'm going to share a story today from one of my Bibles, the Book of Awakening by Mark Nepo. And he has a great story today that I'm going to start with. Underneath all we are taught, there is a voice that calls to us beyond what is reasonable. And in listening to that flicker of spirit, we often find deep healing. This is the voice of embodiment, calling us to live our lives like sheet music played. And it often speaks to us briefly in moments of deep crisis. Sometimes it is so faint, we mistake its whisper for wind through the leaves. But taking it into the heart of our pain and struggles, it can often open the paralysis of our life. This brings to mind the story of a young divinity student in the 1900s who was stricken with polio. And from somewhere deep within him came an unlikely voice calling him to, of all things, dance. So with great difficulty, he quit divinity school and began to dance. And slowly and miraculously, he not only regained the use of his legs, but he went on to become one of the fathers of modern dance. This is the story of Ted Shawn. And it is compelling for us to realize that studying God did not heal him. Embodying God did. Studying God, right, did not heal him. Embodying God did. The fact of Ted Shawn's miracle shows us the dance in all its forms is theology lived. And this leads us all to the inescapable act of living out what is kept in, of daring to breathe in muscle and bone what we know and feel and believe again and again. Whatever crisis we face, there is this voice of embodiment that speaks beneath our pain ever so quickly. And if we can hear it and believe it, it will show us the way to be reborn. The courage to hear and embody opens us to a startling secret that the best chance to be whole is to love whatever gets in the way until it ceases to be an obstacle. To love whatever gets in the way until it's no longer there. Whew. Take a breath. I think that's the gift of spirituality itself. It offers an entry point into a greater intelligence that's at work beyond us, that is architecting everything. So a basic principle that we teach here is that we are surrounded by a mind, an intelligence that knows everything, and the potential knowledge of all things exists in this mind. And we also exist in this mind. And we may draw from it. But what we draw from it, we have to draw through the channel of our own thinking, our own mind and heart. So a conscious connection must be made and felt before we can derive the benefits from which the greater mind is willing to reveal or give to us. Let's affirm, my mind is a channel for the divine nature to flow. My mind is a channel for the divine nature to flow. Flow, embody. When we combine knowing about the divine with a commitment and a consistency and repetition of our practices, when those two are united and there's a framework of knowing the truth and applying the truth, and then that builds momentum, and then we return and live from our natural state. I don't know about you, but sometimes I can just be way out there, worrying, upset, and I have to draw myself back. Because remember, the law, the universal law, is impersonal. It gives alike to everyone, just the way gravity does, right? Its nature, though, is to impart. Ours is to receive. And sometimes we just have to get out of our own way. The great Ralph Waldo Emerson advised that we get our bloated nothingness out of the way of the divine circuitry. Oh, dear. Bless our hearts.
Meaning our ego?
Yeah, basically. So what again is our principle? That we are surrounded by an infinite possibility. It is goodness, it is life, it is law, and it wishes to express through us. And as it passes through us and into our being, it becomes the direction of our life. Yet it can only pass through us when we consciously allow it to do so. We have to be conscious of it. And that takes some faith, I think, doesn't it? We have to be conscious that it's doing something. I often say, thank you, God, in me. I of myself can do nothing. It's the Father within me that doeth the work. That's a biblical thing. If you're not into the Bible, that's fine. But I just remind myself that there is a power greater than I am that I can use. We all can use it. So how are you using it? Ernest said, we are dealing with intelligence and should deal with it intelligently. He also said trained thought is far more powerful than untrained thought. So the more power we give to our thought, the more completely we believe that our thought has power, the more power it's going to have. What it does. What does it do? Well, according to the science of mind, the law of mind is always at work. It's like a mirror, reflecting back whatever you're thinking and feeling. It doesn't judge or pick favorites. It just takes the impression we give it through our thoughts and emotions, and then it shows it right to us in the form of our experience. This means that our inner world is constantly shaping our outer world, whether we realize it or not. Again, it's like gravity. We're not just along for the ride in life, we are actually co-creators with the divine. And the law of mind is the mechanism we use in this creative process. When we become more aware and intentional about what we're thinking and feeling, we start to see really big changes in our lives. I know some of you have had amazing testimonials about that. of how your life has changed from studying these principles and understanding that where your attention goes, your energy flows. We have to take responsibility. Darn. Can we love and accept what is? We don't have to like it, but we can bless it and trust and know and have faith that there's something good on the other side of this. So think about whether your most dominant thoughts during the day are constructive or destructive. You don't have to answer this out loud. But just to notice, are you consciously directing your thoughts towards positivity, growth, and possibilities, or are you always complaining and resisting what is? Take a breath. We're always a choice. That's like the first thing I remember learning in the science of mind was that I have a choice into my own thinking. So if we're seeking to demonstrate something or manifest something, we must tell ourselves that we have faith in that greater power and in our ability in understanding the principle of our divine nature. So how do we overcome our doubts? Again, it's with our faith. Faith in a greater good. Faith in a better possibility. Faith in a specific statement, which we use in spiritual mind treatment, which is what the science of mind is our affirmative form of prayer. It neutralizes and erases and dissolves the opposite mental attitude. That's why prayer is so powerful. And it's because of this fact that this study is a science. The science of mind and spirit is what Ernest called it. You know, it's interesting. He was around the same time that Paramahansa Yogananda was. And they were both had like thousands of people listening to them. And Yogananda being from India and having that culture and thought. But Yogananda called his teaching the science of religion. Ernest Holmes called it religious science. These two great minds at the same time in the early 1900s. I mean, it's just unbelievable. They were just so in sync. Let's affirm, I have faith in a greater good.
I have faith in a greater good.
What? I have faith in a greater good. What it does. So turn to that thought which tells you that you don't know how to use it. And you tell it, no, I have dominion over my thinking and feeling. I did a little clip, I don't know if it's been on YouTube yet, about no. When those thoughts come in, no, I'm not going in that direction. The mind knows what no means. No, I'm not going to be worried about this. No, I'm going to move forward. Because here and now, as Ernest says, we are surrounded by and immersed in an infinite good. And how much of this good is ours? As much of it as we can embody, take in, and accept. So like Ted Shawn, we're not just studying divine principles. We learn here how to embody this divine essence, feel its presence. So when things look bleak and are upsetting, we go to our faith. And we remember, I live, move, and have my being in spirit. I say that like all the time. I live, move, and have my being in spirit. Because I forget too sometimes. So to truly embrace and understand the teaching of science of mind, we have to understand how the law works and what it does. And in a nutshell, what it does is it's done unto you as you believe. That's nothing new. What you reap, you sow, right? So we have to connect the dots to that. You know, my motto in my private coaching practice for years and my yoga teaching has been inner evolution, outer transformation. And I remember when I first started using that little phrase, I didn't really know what it meant, but it just popped in one time and I thought, ooh, that sounds cool. Inner evolution, outer transformation. So I used that for years and years and years until one day in practitioner training, I remember I saw that again and I was like, wow, now I know what that means. Yeah. Because our inner world has, our inner thinking, our inner feelings have that effect on the outside. So we can stay grounded and balanced in our response to what's happening and not fall apart when we train and discipline ourselves to come back to our daily practices, whatever that is. And if you don't have a daily practice, it's a good time to start one. You know, just meditating for 5 minutes every morning, reading your 365, 1 page a day of something inspiring, calling a practitioner, putting your hand on your heart and breathing through your heart. One small daily practice is a foundation to remember who we are and bring us back to wholeness. So just like the dancer Ted Shawn, he had the courage to listen to his inner guidance, practice and train for an unexpected joyful life in dance. Our daily spiritual connection is our power in transcending any challenge. I always like to think of it, it turns stumbling blocks into stepping stones. Because things do show up. Life happens. Yes, it does. Did you notice that? It's interesting. I really relate to Ted Shawn's story, but in reverse. He became a dancer after he was a divinity student. I, in my other life, was a professional dancer, and then I became a divinity student. I did the unexpected. Who would have thought? But I listened to that voice deep within me, and I went through many years of study and training. First to be a spiritual practitioner, then I went through ministerial training. And now I'm an ordained minister. Who would have thought? After performing all over the world with my dance company, it's like, wow. I mean, I never envisioned that. But I listened, and I just kept moving in the direction that I was nudged by that divine voice. So maybe you too can connect the dots in your life to the power of the thing itself and how it works and what it does, and welcome it to work in your life. And embody that which makes you whole. Are you willing to do that? Yes. Say, I'm in.
Yes. I'm in.
I'm really in.
I'm really in.
I'm really, really, really in.
Really.
So in one of my workshops, I found this, and I don't remember where I got it, but I use this in a lot of my movement workshops. Guidance. God, you and I dance.
That's beautiful.
So think about that. And dance to you can be, just a movement, a connection. It doesn't have to be like the cha-cha or the foxtrot. God, you and I dance. If you dance with the divine, your life will be divinely guided. I guarantee that. So I think this new year, I don't know about you, but I'm really paying attention to my practices. And I am also here as your spiritual director to support each one of you in stepping up to your practices and knowing your wholeness. Because I know your wholeness already. But now you get to find that out. So thank you. And so it is.